Welcome to Macro Matters. Today's episode is about something the headlines are celebrating, but that we need to look at more critically. President Trump just announced a total reset in trade with China. Markets jumped, investors cheered, but behind the scenes, this is damage control, not a diplomatic win. Let's break it down. Over the weekend, talks in Switzerland led to a major announcement. Tariffs between the US and China are being dramatically reduced. The US is cutting its tariffs on Chinese goods from 145% to 80% down to 30%. China is reducing its retaliatory tariffs from 125% down to 10%. Sounds like progress, but let's be clear that these changes are temporary. Both sides say the tariffs are suspended, not canceled. They could return in just 90 days if no new agreement is reached. President Trump himself said, "We're not looking to hurt China." But let's not forget, this trade war has hurt China, and it's also hurt America. Chinese factories were shutting down, that's true. But here's what else was happening. American ports saw fewer shipments. Factory output slowed, workers were laid off, retailers struggled to keep shelves stocked, and small businesses couldn't keep up with rising costs. This so-called reset is a reaction to growing damage. It's not a strategy, it's a pause. And American families have already paid the price. Let's talk numbers. Markets rose sharply after the announcement. The Dow and S&P climbed more than 2.5%. The Nasdaq jumped 3.3%. Companies like Apple, Amazon, and Meta saw stock gains. Retailers like Target and Home Depot surged. Even global shipping firms like Maersk and Hapag-Lloyd went up double digits. Why? Because businesses are finally getting a break. But that break comes after months of instability. The National Retail Federation said this deal gives some relief, especially for holiday supply orders. Maersk, one of the world's biggest shipping companies, called it a step in the right direction. But that's telling. When your best-case scenario is a step, you're admitting how far off course we were. And it's not just tariffs. The US is still keeping an extra 20% tariff in place. It's aimed at pressuring China on the illegal fentanyl trade. Other sector-specific tariffs remain on steel, on cars, and more. China has agreed to reduce non-tariff barriers. But like everything else in this deal, details are vague. Enforcement is unclear, and the clock is already ticking. What we're seeing is not a reset, it's a retreat. A moment where both sides, after months of damage, I think are stepping back from the edge. But let's not confuse that with victory. American consumers have paid more. Farmers have lost critical markets. Businesses have faced months of confusion and fear. And now, we get 90 days of uncertainty. Elaine Lee, a Chinese executive, summed it up best. She said many firms will treat this as temporary because they know this could all fall apart again. At Macro Matters, we believe in honest analysis. This is not about politics. It's about policy that affects your life. And this policy has failed to deliver stability, growth, or fairness. We're not watching a trade victory. We're watching a rollback of a self-inflicted wound. If you found this breakdown helpful, be sure to subscribe, like the video, and share it with someone who wants to understand the truth behind the headlines. This is Macro Matters, where we track power, policy, and the real-world cost.